Endings, new beginnings. A future awaiting our choices. Anyone visiting Australia today cannot help but notice massive billboards in all the major cities encouraging people to conserve water. A natural response would be to think these are the result of recent drought conditions. And indeed they are, in a way. But though the signs are new, the drought they were erected in response to has gone on for years and shows no sign of improvement. Across the nation, water reservoirs are at roughly 1/4 of capacity and have been declining for a decade, thanks to a combination of subnormal rainfall and rising temperatures widely attributed by leading scientific panels to climate change. Starting in 2007, water became the focus of national debates. One popular suggestion even called for the complete elimination of the nation's large citrus crop. This sounds drastic, but when there is simply not enough water to go around, hard choices need to be made, even if that means sacrificing an important crop in an industry that accounts for roughly 3% of GDP. But in addition to conserving resources such as water, innovative Australians everywhere are also seizing the opportunity to rethink and recreate their lives and the infrastructures that govern them. They are working together in communities across the country to come up with renewable energy solutions and beginning to consider sweeping changes in energy and water industries. Business, long dominated by mining and mineral industries, has become a vocal advocate for investment in innovative alternative energy technologies, such as wind and solar. Half a world away, Sweden has parted ways with other industrial economies to completely sever their dependence on imported oil and the vulnerability that goes along with it. Under former Prime Minister Göran Persson, a commission was established in 2006 that laid out a 15-year plan to cut fossil fuel use to zero by 2020. This momentous shift was, in fact, the outcome of decades of work by remarkable networks of public and private sector leaders committed to making northern Sweden the world's first bioregion, in which all energy needs are met from sustainably produced biofuels. Similar changes are occurring in businesses the world over. In response to the turmoil of world oil markets and oil-producing regions, DuPont, one of the largest and oldest companies in America, has set itself on a course to shift its product line from petroleum-based to bio-based feedstocks. Like many companies around the world, DuPont has worked for years to reduce waste, including carbon dioxide, CO2 emissions. But it now sees that the real innovation opportunities lie in the creation of new products that break the company's dependency on conventional oil and gas entirely. Similarly, Nike has reduced its carbon footprint by more than 75%. But again, by looking for the truly innovative opportunities for the future, the company has declared its intent to achieve zero waste, zero toxicity, and 100% recyclability across its entire product line by 2020. Our company and our customers care about health. Our products and ways of producing them should embody this, says Darcy Winslow, former head of the women's footwear division. But to do this, we're having to completely rethink how we design, produce, and distribute those products and how we recover them at the end of their lifetime. There are many types of revolutions. History talks mostly of political revolutions, dramatic events that all too often represent little real change over the long term. The cast of players and power shifts and new political philosophies come into vogue, but when it comes to the daily realities of most people, little changes. But occasionally, something different happens, a collective awakening to new possibilities that changes everything over time, how people see the world, what they value, how society defines progress and organizes itself, and how institutions operate. The Renaissance was such a shift, as was the Industrial Revolution. So too is what is starting to happen around the world today. Perhaps surprisingly, the most visible signs of this new revolution are a mounting series of environmental and social crises. While Australia's water situation may seem extreme, it is hardly unique. Both the southeast and southwest regions of the United States are facing a similar need for rationing and possible permanent cutbacks. In developed countries around the world, previously taken for granted aspects of daily life, food, water, energy, predictable weather, seem less and less reliable.
The industrial age is the machine age. The industrial age is driven by a progressive expansion of a way of thinking about the world as if it's a big machine. It actually had its roots even in the scientific revolution that preceded the Industrial Age by 100 to 200 years. Newton called the universe God's clockwork and said, my job is to understand how the clock works. Now, once you understand this, you can begin to see that the deeper generative, creative process that shapes how we live is actually not that mysterious. It starts with how we think. And then it plays out in how we do things. Work at the most immediate level. How do I organize the construction of this machine or this particular business? And then it gradually plays out in a larger level. By the middle of the 19th century, we were creating schools based on the model of the assembly line. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. That's where it all came from. It wasn't out of the blue. It came from a way of thinking. To bring about change at a fundamental level, you have to change these underlying metaphors, these underlying images. While the machine age has been remarkably powerful in terms of expanding material well-being, life expectancy, all kinds of things that have really improved for human beings, it has also put us more and more at odds with the larger world in which we live. The larger world in which we live is actually not a machine. Nature is not a machine. A forest is not a machine. An ecosystem is actually not a machine. And you know what? A human being is not a machine. These are living systems. And why they have certain aspects that work in sort of machine-like ways, like I can talk about the mechanism of the heart pumping blood inside the body, works kind of like a pump, which is a machine. It's actually not a machine, because pumps don't create themselves. My heart creates itself. It's continually regenerating itself, which is a feature of a living system. It creates itself. To live in a different way, to shape a world that operates differently than the Industrial Age, will require starting to understand the world, to understand our organizations, to understand ourselves as living systems. It's kind of an odd thing to say in a way. It's like, what am I? I'm obviously not a machine. And yet, in business, we call them human resources. We don't call them departments of people. We call them departments of human resources. Look in your dictionary. Resource, standing in reserve, waiting to be used. Human being as machine, input to the bigger machine called a business. And what's a business? A business is a machine for making money. So we have to start to slow this down. That's the only way the age changes. The age changes as we change. But then it has to be brought into practice, how we do things, how we design products, how we create a business model, how organizations really function. Are we a human community or are we a machine for making money? So a short answer to the question, how do we shape the world beyond the Industrial Age, is we change how we live. Person by person, team by team, organization by organization, supply chain, industry by industry. And we do it in order to have each of those systems operate more and more like a living system. And a living system is a system that could then be in harmony with the larger living systems of which we're all a part.
Seeing the whole picture. For most of us, the endless litany of environmental and societal crises is overwhelming, both emotionally and cognitively. It is no wonder that so many simply turn off when confronted with another story of climate change-related severe weather, water shortages, or toxic waste. The first problem to deal with is simply, how do I take all of this in without frying my circuits? Systems thinking has long been a cornerstone in our work on organizational learning, but the term often seems more daunting than helpful. In fact, systems thinking is not about fighting complexity with more complexity. It simply means stepping back and seeing patterns that are, when seen clearly, intuitive and easy to grasp. Several years ago, working with the Rocky Mountain Institute, an energy and resource research and consultancy group, we developed a simple systems picture to help people make sense of the situation in which we find ourselves today. The gist of the picture centers on 6 basic ideas. If you had to explain our predicament to a 10-year-old, this would be a good way to start. Number 1. The industrial system, what we make, buy, and use, from cars and TVs to buildings and power plants, sits within the larger systems of nature. Number 2. This larger natural world includes living, regenerative resources such as forests, croplands, and fisheries, and other resources that, from a human time perspective, do not
Sample complete. Ready to continue?